This telephone box is glowing down the middle. It is like it's TARDIS. This is Doctor Who video. Okay, so, as you can probably guess from the lack of He Who Moans videos on my channel in recent months, I'm kind of unenthusiastic about Doctor Who at the moment, and I'm currently wondering if I can even be asked to watch Series 12 when it eventually comes out at all, let alone review it. I mean, I'll admit that's probably an empty threat, I mean it is me here, obsessive dork that I am, but Series 11 was just exhausting for me. I've had some distance from the franchise over the last 9 months. All I've done in that time is rewatch the Season 3 finale and bought the Macroterror DVD for a couple of random videos. Oh, and I bought the 10th Doctor Adventures Volume 3 from Big Finish, but I haven't bothered listening to it yet. I just find my enthusiasm for Doctor Who has kinda dried up, which I think is really weird, and I kinda do blame Season 11 for it, because even while I was getting really bored with the Moffat era, I still wanted to watch it and be involved in the expanded universe. I was still enthusiastic about it and invested, but now it's kinda nothing. And a lot of people seem to be going through a similar thing with Doctor Who at the moment, and I wanted to explore why that is, because a lot of people seem to be getting hung up on conspiracies, politics, and agendas, but I personally think this really muddies the waters and ignores the actual reason why Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who has sucked the enthusiasm out of people like me. I think the reason I found myself with an overwhelming sense of ennui when it comes to Doctor Who at present, and why I'm just seeing formulas everywhere that I turn, is that my misgivings about Chibnall from his announcement as new showrunner right up until this point were kinda confirmed by just how bland Season 11 was, and it's proven to me why he was so unsuited to Doctor Who in the first place. The reason being, Chris Chibnall is clearly not a visionary. He is a seasoned professional commercial writer, and a seasoned professional commercial writer is thoroughly unsuited to being in charge of Doctor Who. They can work on it, sure, but they should not be in charge. And Chris being this type of writer doesn't mean that he's a bad writer or a hack, for the record. That's not a bad thing. What being a professional commercial writer means is that he can just switch on and write any piece of fiction at all to a brief that wide swathes of the general public will probably find acceptable, but that will make obtuse neckbeardy dorks like me sick with boredom. The first TV show that he helmed was called Born and Bred. It was a soporifically dull, low-key drama series about some doctors who work in the countryside. Oh no, Mr. Gerald Muesli got a bit poorly and he fell over. Oh no, Mrs. Edwina Crumpet's daughter is giving birth and we can't get her to the hospital in time. Oh no. Born and Bred is possibly one of the shittest TV shows ever made, in my opinion, but in terms of mass market appeal, it was reliable. It got 6 to 7 million viewers on average every year, and the ratings were pretty solid. You had millions of people tuning in, week out, to get their regular dose of content. Barely anyone remembers Born and Bred now though, do they? It hasn't exactly left a big mark on British television. This is just what Chris Chibnall does. He writes something that mechanically works, everything is there that needs to be there, it has mass market appeal, it gets decent ratings for now, and then everyone totally forgets about it afterwards. He is a solid writer, he knows what he's doing, the bare bones are there, but all he's really done is just enough to get away with it. He lacks any real distinctive vision that's going to leave a lasting impact on the viewer, and that's what Doctor Who in particular needs in order to remain culturally relevant. People still talk about Blink even now, well over a decade later. People hated Love and Monsters, yes, but they remember it. Are people really going to remember the Battle of Ranskarav Kolos? Really? Russell was a mad genius. Voyage of the Damned was shit, yes, but I remember it really, really vividly. And he did insane bollocks like that all the time. Stephen kept recycling himself, yes, but at least he was bold and brave when he wanted to be. Heaven Sent is a fucking masterpiece. Hellbent sucks quite a lot, but at least it's a product of vision, imagination, and drive to tell a story. It's not just there to fill space. But just being there to fill space is exactly how Chris works, and that's why I find myself with so little to say about lots of it, because it just seems to be there for the sake of being there. Doctor Who runs on formulas, yes, but the writer or showrunner usually at least adds something to those formulas, some kind of personal stamp that makes it feel different, unique and special in some way. They don't just offer me the bare bones of what a typical Doctor Who story looks like. That's all that season 11 is, it's just the bare bones. Maybe there was a time in Chris's life when him helming Doctor Who would have made sense, but it's far, far too late now, because his years in the industry plying his trade and writing stuff that's just designed to get the numbers have sanded off any kind of distinctive vision that this show needs, and that he probably had for the show at one time in his life, but now season 11's come out bland, formulaic and ultimately workmanlike, because that's just the type of writer Chris is now. The show's just there to assemble the familiar elements, companions for the Doctor to explain the plot to, interchangeable voice-changed freaky monster face aliens, generic space corridors for the characters to run down, flashy lights, quippy dialogue, technobabble, and the progressive political messages are part of this, people who keep getting hung up on them. People keep acting as if this is some kind of new thing, but progressive political messages have always been a part of Doctor Who. I mean, the show's most famous monster is a metal space Nazi. This stuff is nothing new, but what they are in Series 11 is another element that Chris has identified as typically being a component of a Doctor Who story. That's why some of these political messages may have felt wrong and on the nose to you, because while they work in some cases, it is quite blatant that not all of them have arisen organically. The lazy Trump stand-in in Arachnids in the UK, for example, could have been done well. I usually love me some Trump parodies, but Chris doesn't appear to really know what it is that he's trying to say with the lazy Trump stand-in, so it's another thing that's just there for the sake of being there. Doctor Who under Chris is essentially just another series of Doctor Who. It's a show that you can just sit back and let wash over you, and then it's gone after the credits roll, and it gets filed into your mental junk drawer as just something that you watched once. And that's what all his work's like, it's just there to fill space and keep actors and production crews in steady TV work. Did Broadchurch really need 3 series? Really? Well, whether it did or not doesn't matter. Chris can write it, and so he did. And people watched it and are probably going to totally forget everything that happened in seasons 2 and 3 in a few years' time, if they haven't already. And that's not a bad thing as such. I have some degree of respect for what Chris does and how he works. It may not be my thing, but he keeps people in steady TV work, and I can respect that. He is very good at what he does. But he just feels wrong working inside of Doctor Who because of the type of writer that he is. His first season on Doctor Who is a little bit different to his past work because you've got a mechanical writer who's helming a weird, obtuse, shape-shifting series that does whatever it wants and that already has this well-established, overly passionate fanbase who love and cherish unique episodes with interesting concepts like Blink and Heaven Sent. And these two things just don't gel together. It's not that he's a bad writer, it's that Chris is thoroughly unsuited to Doctor Who in particular now at this point in his career. When he was younger and hadn't had his spirit crushed by the real world of commissions, deadlines and brief writing, maybe.
Well, not only that, but it was also very cliched. It was very routine, running up and down corridors and silly monsters. It was perhaps a little too routine Doctor Who, very much what the audience is expecting. It's not really very challenging for them to watch. A very traditional sort of thing that people will expect Doctor Who to fall into.
Yeah, that's who he was, and that's an indication of the type of writer that he would have been. Idealistic, young, enthusiastic, but this clip is not the gotcha moment that people think it is for one key reason. People change. Now it's decades later, and he spent those decades working in the industry writing soporific mass-market drama, and now he's this type of writer. He's a contractor. He can do it, chuck it out there, go home and we're done, and that's good. That means he'll usually be successful, but that's just not how Doctor Who's operated up until this point. The show under Chris is this generic, homogenous blob of content that gives people exactly what they came to it for week in, week out, but that's just not Doctor Who. The show should be weird, experimental, rough around the edges, a bit dangerous. The show has its formulas, yes, all TV shows do to some degree, but there's no spark to it. Yes, Doctor Who was unreliable under Russell and Steven. Sometimes you get embarrassingly bad episodes that'll make you cringe so hard your face would feel like it was going to fall off. But you kept watching, cause hell, next week it might be gold. Try your luck with it. And the episodes that were gold were so far beyond gold that it'd make the shit ones feel worth it. But you're never going to get gold with Chris in charge. It's always going to be just enough. He's so focused on delivering a consistent experience that the intense emotional reaction I usually have to Doctor Who, positive or negative, is completely gone. Hell, season 11 made me nostalgic for the traditional shitty Christmas specials, because although they made you so angry that you'd be shouting at your television, at least it was a reaction. At least I had fun picking apart why I thought the Christmas special sucked. I thought season 9 was mostly shit, but I was paying attention, I was having a strong reaction, and I had fun making videos about it. I didn't really have any fun with season 11. Chris's Doctor Who is basically like a soap opera. It doesn't exist to be watched with enthusiasm. Like EastEnders, that's something that people just have on and zombie watch after a hard day at work. It's not there to generate an intense reaction that's going to stay with people for years, and that's basically Chris's entire catalogue to a T. Maybe that's enough for you, and I see why some people have clicked with New Who under Chris, but I was just numb to it, and it was so hard to muster up the energy to talk about it. And given that Chris is known for being reliable, consistent and predictable, I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that Series 12 will be the exact same deal. And currently, I don't see much point in sticking around to see if I'm wrong. And that just makes me feel really sad, you know? Like, please try and change my mind, comment section. Please, I really want to be wrong about this.